Hey, welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. Kesha, and you're here. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I would appreciate if you happen to like this video, click that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build it up, and I think you just might like this content. All right, so just like many other folks, I went to see The Color Purple, the musical, the drama. That's The Color Purple 2023. And I want to share my reaction. I want to talk about some of the drama as well as the trauma and all the themes that were connected in there, and maybe some stuff that we can learn and we can glean from the musical, this current musical, as well as the book and the previous one, which was in 1985, which I want to kind of start out with that one first. Because if I were you, I would definitely, if you have an opportunity, read the book. All right, do that. Read the book. The book, The Color Purple, is by Alice Walker. Read the book if you haven't read the book. And if you haven't seen the original film, the first film that was done in 1985, you need to check that one out first. And the reason why I say check it out first is because it is a great film. Now, I know that comparing the original that was done in 1985 to this current version, which is a musical, is like comparing apples and oranges. And I know some people have tried to compare them. And I did a previous video, which I had to take down and kind of redo again because they said it couldn't be monetized because of some of the intro music that was used that I got permission to use. But for whatever reason, YouTube is doing this thing, but I digress. So this is actually my many attempts to do this reaction and kind of review and talk about trauma video. This is a multiple attempt. I don't even know what number at this point, but I want to get it out there because I really do believe that many people can, I don't know, somehow be blessed. I think somehow express the grief that needs to be expressed due to trauma that may have been experienced or may not have been experienced, or just simply want to feel on a human level, to be able to sympathize and empathize with other people. I just think this is that type of film where if you didn't have sympathy for people and other people's plight, I think watching this, it's gonna pull at your heartstrings for sure. So that's what I would recommend. If you can read the book, read the book. If you haven't seen the 1985 version of The Color Purple, I would strongly recommend that because all the quotables comes from that movie, all of that. It's a phenomenal film. Funny thing is, to prepare myself to see the 2023, I watched the 1985 version. And not only did I watch the 1985 version, but what's cool is YouTube has many YouTubers that did reaction videos to the 1985 version. And it's so interesting because just about everyone that I watched that did a reaction video had the same response. Tears, of course, bring tissues, whether you're watching the 1985 version or you're watching the 2023 version. Bring some tissue and some Kleenex, honey, because you're going to need it. Okay. You're just going to need it. And so therefore it was just interesting watching. It didn't matter whether it was people of color, whether it was women, whether it was men, whether it was white people, whether it was male white people, female white folks, whether it was ambiguous people, biracial people. I think it was a person from Australia that did a response or reaction to the 1985 film. And I'm telling you, on cue, the same, whenever the theme came up, whenever the trauma came up, everyone just about, I want to say at least 99% had the same responses where they felt like, oh my God, why is this woman having to go through all this? Like, oh my God, why are they doing this to this lady? Oh my God, oh my God. Some tears, some anger. Like, I think it provoked just about every range of emotion. watching it. And I believe that you're going to experience the same in the musical, but you need to understand kind of where they get their nuances from. Because what you will find when you watch the drama slash musical, you will discover that there's going to be components that they did pull from the book, components that they did pull from the 1985 version, like from Whoopi's character. Whoopi played Celie. So there was some nuances from, what Whoopi chose to do during moments in the film that Fantasia pulled from that. So again, and then the same with, I believe it was um, Danielle Brooks that played Sophia, that kind of took some of the nuances from Oprah Winfrey's reenactment of that character. She pulled some of the mannerisms and some of the things that she did in the 1985 film in the 2023. So if you just watch the 2023, you're going to think, oh, this is wow, But when you watch the other version and when you maybe read the book, you kind of get a better sense of what direction the director tried to go in. And also, if you went to the Broadway play, because in truth, the 2023 version is really not a reenactment of the 1985 movie, but it is a reimagination or reimaginative. What is a reimagination of the Broadway musical? So when you know that it's a musical and they took the musical or what was done on Broadway and they made it a film, I think you'll even have a better understanding when you watch the 2023. Like I said, you'll see certain elements from the 1985 version in the 2023, but it is definitely a reimagining of the film slash Broadway play slash book. So there are some different things and some nuances. It doesn't start out the same, but yet it does start out the same. So you'll have to see those nuances, but you have to know where those references are. And I think that you'll have a better understanding when you do have those references, when you can watch the film and the 1985 version, you'll say, oh, yeah. So, when, let's say, for example, um, Sophia, right, being acted out by Danielle Brooks was walking all rough, down the path, with Harpo, who was played by Corey Hawkins, you'll say, wow, like that's something. But if you were to watch the 1985 version, you will see Oprah Winfrey doing the same thing, okay? Which Oprah Winfrey did it first, if that makes sense. So they did they paid homage to these people when they did certain things. They paid homage to the 1985 version. It wasn't like a copying, it was more like homage that they were paying to their characters when they did certain things. Like when Fantasia as Celie did the fingers at the end when she cursed Mr. Oprah Winfrey cursed Mr. first. If that makes sense. In the 1985 version, two fingers up, whole thing, you know, again, that's paying honor to her character and also the actress that played that role. So you'll see those nuances. And I think just again, when you hear the interviews, when you check those out, and you have a chance to see those, they're going to tell you the very same thing. So it should, there's Easter eggs, if you will. They're kind of like Easter eggs, especially for people that have seen the 1985 film, and you pretty much have it memorized. That there are certain lines that are iconic. And so they did throw some of those iconic, lines in there, like the iconic line that Oprah Winfrey said in 1985 when she played Sophia, she said, "All my life I had to fight." That's an iconic line. Everybody still say that to this day. I mean, people still play on that to this day. Okay, that part was in it. So again, when you watch the 1985 version, I think you will enjoy it a little bit better because you're going to start seeing those little things. You're going to say, "Oh, okay, I see." They're giving honor to and kind of tipping their hats to the previous characters. I'm sorry, the actors um, that played those roles prior to them, and so that was beautiful to see. But I do want to say before I move on to my reaction to the film, this year's film, I do want to tip my hat to Whoopi Goldberg and all the castmates. Um, the two girls in the beginning that played the younger Celie and the younger Nettie, they did that. Now, if I had to compare the younger Celie and the younger Nettie in the 2023 rendition of it, they did a good job. But in my opinion, based upon this is my reaction, I feel like the scene was way more powerful in the 1985 version. I think that they were so effective at showing that number one, you believed that they were sisters. You believed in the bond that they had. I don't know what happened, but in the beginning, it just seemed like you just didn't quite get the same feeling. I didn't when I watched it. To me, there was some kind of disconnect. I don't know what it was, but because in the beginning of the film, just like in the beginning of the 1985 version, of course, you have kind of the younger Celie being highlighted. And just to kind of put context, the younger Celie is young. She's a preteen. She's in her early teens. And so in the beginning of the story, you see her belly right away. So they did the same thing, but it seemed as if it was glossed over. It didn't seem as impactful or as powerful as or as surprising as it could have should have been, because it was almost like you entered into that world and it was just too much positivity. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe it's just me, but in the beginning of the 1985, you can tell that there was some issues. You can feel trauma like from the beginning. Now, in comparison to the two, for sure, the 1985 version is definitely heart wrenching all in through, for the exception of when there's redemption at the end. I want to say the 2023 version, you see and feel some of the trauma, but certain parts were more heart wrenching than others. Other parts were like, okay, wow, like, and some other parts were like, oh my God. But I want to say the 1985 version was like, oh my, the whole run. You know what I mean? So it was like I felt that there was somewhat of a disconnect. Like the part in the 1985 version when the father basically, I don't want to say sold, but essentially that's what he did. When he gave Celie away to Mr. To marry, when he made that arrangement, if you will, when Mr. came to the father, when he came to him, which was his name was Alfonso. I don't recall hearing his name in the first film, but I heard the name a lot more clearer. And to me, the character was a lot more, I don't know, they added a little bit more flesh to him in the 1985 version, which the 2023 version was played by Dion Cole, and I think he did a great job, being that he's not a traditional actor, he's a comedian, but he did a great job with this dramatic role. But the 1985 version, the dad really he didn't have a whole lot of layers to him. I want to say the 2023 version did, like the dad did have like a little bit more version, and I don't remember like what the exchange was for his daughter, but the one thing that was, um I think the same in both films was that Mr. came, which his name is Albert, and it's so funny because I don't remember his name at all being Albert, until I had to watch the original film, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, because Suge referred to him as his real name. But I guess he just whatever he wanted everyone to call him Mr. So there was a disconnect from the beginning. It was almost like I said, a very transactional relationship from the beginning. But when Mr. slash Albert came to Alfonso, which was the younger Celie's dad and Nettie's dad, Mr. was coming for Nettie. You know, he was fond of her. And the dad said, no, you can take Celie instead. So that's pretty much how it all starts out. So, like I said, it's a lot more darker in the 1985, but you'll kind of get the gist of why they chose to go the route that they did in the 2023 if you did see the 1985 version. But I want to say the 1985 version, in my opinion, when it came to the younger Celie and the younger Nettie, it just seemed like they were way stronger when it came to, you know, the attempt to try to separate them. Those young ladies, they were acting their socks off. Like they were literally like, you're not going to separate us. They did everything in their power to try to literally stay together. When you see this current one, if you've never seen the 1985, you probably really won't even notice it as much. But when you've seen the original and then you see this one, you can't help but to compare and contrast. Like I said, it is like comparing apples and oranges because you're dealing with a musical drama in comparison to a musical thriller, because there is some music, because Suge does sing, or let's say the voiceover, because and then this is a whole nother thing, but I'll get to it. You know what? Let me say it because I probably will lose my train of thought. My sister brought this to my attention, and it totally went over my head when I first saw the film and the first few times that I saw it, that the individual, the actress playing Suge, she wasn't singing the music. She actually had another singer sing, and she acted. Well, she did a fine job acting. The individual that played Suge, let me try to find her name. Oh yeah, Margaret Avery. Margaret Avery did a phenomenal job as Suge in the 1985 film, but she did not do the singing though, and I didn't know that at first. My sister was like, "No, she didn't do the singing." I was like, "Oh," so to me, that's definitely a hats off to my girl Taraji, because not only did she act her socks off, but she sang. Okay. So shout out to Taraji, because the original actress of Suge didn't do both. You know what I mean? She focused on one and then they had someone else do the singing. Versus Taraji, that's why my hat really goes off to her. Not only did she do the part in terms of the acting component, but she actually sang the song. And of course, um, you know, we know that Fantasia did the same thing and they all had to sing in the musical. But I'm just saying, like, not everybody sung anything. Only Suge did the singing in the original film. But in this one, being it was a musical, it definitely was required. And it makes sense, right? That Suge would have to also sing her part and they could not have someone else to step in for that. So that makes sense. But I will say, you know, hats off to Taraji, because that even adds more depth to her, as well as in addition to all the others, because not everyone can act and sing. That's why you have these folks on Broadway, because a lot of them can act and sing and do choreography and all of that. And a lot of people can't do that. Some would say that's a triple threat, right? Remember Fame? Fame. I wanna live forever. I remember Debbie Allen. Who did she call a triple threat? She called somebody, you're a triple threat because you can dance, you can act, and you can sing. And I think, yeah, Janet Jackson, right, would be someone that would come to mind where, I mean, she can do some drama, Remember when she was younger, she did different strokes, and she was Penny. She can act, she can sing, and she can dance her butt off, right? So that was known as a person would be a triple threat. And so that's good. That's good. So I just wanted to kind of just, again, pay homage to the cast of The Color Purple in the 1985 version, the film there, because I think that without them doing such an exceptional job, we wouldn't have or really appreciate, I don't think, as much as we do this current musical drama. Now we have this current musical drama. Again, shout out to Whoopi, shout out to again all everyone, Oprah. Again, a lot of them during that time, I want to say during that 1985, a lot of their careers took off. Like I think this was at that time, it was Whoopi's like first time, acting because she was a comedian, remember, only. I think for Oprah, she was obviously a host. She was a television journalist. She had an opportunity to act for the first time. Danny Glover, he was an actor for many, many years, but his career took off. Lawrence Fishburne made a cameo. Also, he had a small role, but you remember them. I don't remember seeing the younger Celie and the younger Nettie again in anything. They may have, I don't know, I have to pull up their IMDb's pages to see what they've done after it. But to my understanding, they were relatively young. I don't think they had very much experience acting. I think Margaret Avery also was an experienced actress, as well as Dawn Chung. I think she was also an experienced actress as well, and that's the 1985 film. Now, when you get to the 2023 musical drama, and shout out to the director. Unfortunately, I won't be able to pronounce his name, but he is known. His name is Blitz. Shout out to him. I think he did a phenomenal job. I think he did something small, like on a Sundance like level. It was a very small film that he directed prior to this. So this is like his first major project. I think he also did Beyonce's, I forget which one exactly, but it was the one when she did the film type thing. I forgot which one because I don't really follow Beyonce like that. Sorry, I don't. But I think that he was notable at doing something. I think he did some beautiful, I forgot which one. I would have to look it up. Let me look it up real quick just so that for the sake of information. Let me see the correlation between him and Beyonce. I think it was Beyonce did like a small film, a movie. It was The Renaissance. Wait a minute, hold on. What was it? Let me make sure. I'm trying to see what he did. What did he do for Beyonce? Y'all help me out. It's not coming up. But he directed some videos of hers. I forgot exactly what videos that he directed, but he did. And I'm trying to find it. I'm having a hard time finding it. But nevertheless, let me see if I can. It says Beyonce's veteran remaking The Color Purple, but it doesn't highlight exactly what he did for Beyonce. But I think everyone knows. I think whatever the film was that she did, I think it was so beautiful, and I think he captured a lot of Africa. I forgot which one that was, but I think that one is on Disney, if I'm not mistaken. But shout out to the director; he did a great job. I think one of the things that comes to mind is um, when Fantasia talks about Obviously, her relationship with the character Celie, because she did play her on Broadway. And to my understanding, she did a really great job when she was on Broadway, but she said that it was a very difficult time because she could really relate to the character in terms of her being downtrodden and not having a voice and stuff like that, that she can really relate to the character. And I think it kind of caused some mild depression or something. It was a negative view that she really didn't want to carry that weight again. And so when the director approached her for this opportunity to do it on a bigger screen, she was like, she said that she really kind of declined at first. And then he said, we're going to reimagine this. It won't be as heavy. It's going to be heavy in moments, but it's going to be imaginative. She's going to have an imagination and she's going to triumph and da da da, So I think that kind of drew her in and said, hey, you know what? I'm in a different place right now. I can definitely relate to, I guess, when she read the script, I can relate to this transformation that the Celie character had. She can relate to that aspect of it, evolution, if you will. So she said, okay, I'll do it. And then, of course, we know some about the controversy that Taraji had when she was, not going to play the part because of the pay, issue, the fact that she feels like that, there are there's some disparities. There's some y'all know what I'm trying to say. They don't pay us equally. Yeah, they don't pay us equally as they pay the others. I want to say our counterpart. The disparities, they was it disparis? Wait, here we help me out. They exist. Um, yeah, they exist. Whether it's male or female, and I think in comparison to female, uh, whether it's male or female, unfortunately, it does exist. There is a pay gap that exists, and so disparity, yeah, the disparity that does exist. And so I think the issue, I think, has been, especially with Oprah, is that I think when Monique came on the scene complaining about the Oprah and the Tyler Perry and the different ones, what was the director of Precious, that they basically blackballed her because she did not do what they wanted her to do, which was to practically promote the film overseas for free, essentially. She did promotion for the film, but she didn't want to go overseas. I think she was supposed to go to Europe or something. They wanted her to go somewhere and spend some significant time promoting the film. I do remember watching some interviews regarding Monique's gripe and her being upset with how the situation was handled and basically how she was blackballed from the industry, even though she, received great accolades and stuff for the part that she played. And of course, she wasn't paid much at all to play the role that she played on Precious. But that movie became critically acclaimed. I don't think she was paid much at all. I think she did it as a favor to him, and he didn't, again, she was like, if I do, this promo overseas, I need to bring my family and then I need to be compensated, So she was not necessarily saying I wouldn't do it, but she was saying that, I don't want to do it for free, you know, um, that at this, it's enough that I'm not really getting paid, for what I did do. You know what I mean? I feel like that me and my family at this point they need to go with me and I need to be compensated. And she was told no, so she said, well, if I can't be compensated, then I'm going to have to respectfully decline. And so she, unfortunately, like I said, was blackballed. And then, she had a difficult time really finding something, even to this day. I mean, when we see her in movies and stuff now, but it was a large, gap there where you didn't see her in much. And you go from, I think she received an Oscar to crickets, yeah. And so Monique says that it was because of them, and so now we have Taraji on film, saying the same thing, very similar, not being blackballed, but saying no matter how gracious she has been in the industry, she's not being compensated. The disparity exists. And so, yeah, she said that she was going to decline playing the role, of Suge if they wouldn't compensate her, appropriately. And so, yeah, I guess they made a decision to compensate her. So here she is, and she did a phenomenal job as Suge. I'm glad that she played the part. She really took on the role of Suge. The energy, in my opinion, I had told my sister when she did come on the scene, I felt like the energy shifted in the play. I think it kind of uplifted in the play, and you experience that joy, and that boss chick, mentality, knowing who she is, but yet not being pressed by what other people think. You kind of got that vibe from her. She did a phenomenal job. She really, really did. She brought her A game, singing wise, acting wise. She didn't drop the ball, not one time. She was consistently strong all throughout the film. Um, let's see. Like I said, Halle Bailey and the other young lady that played Nettie, I'm sorry, Celie, they did okay. The young lady Felicia, she did okay. They did okay. They did okay. Sierra, I'm just kind of just getting okay folks out of the way. She did all right. She came, in at the very end. I think that maybe if they would have, like, oftentimes when there was moments when Celie was imagining, her sister, in Africa and stuff like that. It would have been nice instead of seeing Hallie, if we would have seen Sierra, you know what I mean? Even though, I get it that, um, obviously her imagination was at the age and the state, of what she looked like when she left. So that made sense. But at the same time, when Sierra, as a fully grown Nettie, showed up, it was like, to me, there was no connection as we were with maybe the initial Nettie, younger Nettie character. It seems like there was a little bit of a disconnect. She did a good job in terms of showing a range of emotion and stuff like that. But for me, it just fell flat. I'm just being honest, but shout out to Sierra. But let's get to the people who stood out. I think Fantasia did a great job. It's difficult because it was more about her presence, it was more about her essence, it was more about her facial expressions and how she responded to the cruelty and stuff like that, right? And then there was eventually a shift, which was in, obviously in the previous movie and in this movie, where she did eventually find her voice. So that was pleasant to see her come out of her cocoon and check Mister and all that other stuff, right? That came along with the original movie. We see that here. But I want to say that I know some people really felt like that she deserves this and that. And to be honest, she wasn't the top tier in terms of her acting. I think that she was okay, and I think she did a good job. But no, I don't. Even though, like I said, I think sometimes we often deflate two things. I want to say the movie is a good movie. Like it's a great script, right? It pulls on your heartstrings. It provokes emotion, and as it should. Just because a movie provokes emotion doesn't mean and a person can jar some of that emotional state from you. Doesn't necessarily mean that they deserve an Oscar or something or an Academy Award, because they had a moment, you know what I mean, or two where you felt your heart being pulled. Um, I don't agree with that. I feel like that there has to be consistency throughout the whole movie. I don't think that there should be like moments where like, oh yes, 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 girl, and then moments where you're like, okay, okay, all right, yeah. I feel like if somebody's gonna win those type of awards, they should be phenomenal all throughout the whole thing from beginning to end. To the moment they speak their speech, from the moment they show up, from the moment to the moment the curtains fall, and it just and yeah, but to be honest, she just wasn't that for me in this film. Okay, but she did a good job. Now, I feel like Taraji did an exceptional job from the moment she stepped on the scene, from the moment to the end. There was consistency there. She had a strong throughout. She was strong throughout. So I applaud her for that. Now, Danielle Brooks, now she stood out like a sore thumb. She stood out in a good way. She stood out to me. She definitely. Now there were moments where I was like, okay, I'm seeing, her paying homage to Oprah. You know what I mean, and that was cool. I would have liked her to do her own thing in those moments, rather, just saying just a little bit of Oprah. If you want to just say, I want to, I like that part. I like when she did that, so I'm gonna do that too. That's cool, but there's some things where I wish she would have just it would have probably even been better if she would have made it her own. But I want to say that despite of those little minor things, I felt like she really her acting will blow you away. Like she literally will take you up and down in terms of range of emotions because of her acting, how phenomenal she was. I think in one scene she had us cracking up, and then like the next moment it got sad just that quick. Like it just so she definitely takes you on an emotional roller coaster when it comes to acting, and she did a phenomenal job. Now, the actor that played Mr., which is Coleman Domingo, he did a phenomenal job as well. I think when Danny Glover played Mr., he was America's most wanted, hated man of the year. I mean, people hated his guts. Now, I don't think that they're going to hate Coleman Domingo like they hated Danny Glover during that time after he played that part. It's not going to be because Danny Glover played that part, but I want to say that he came awfully close. You know what I mean, to what Danny Glover did to Mr. He definitely was and he is, in my opinion, Mr. Danny Glover did that thing. Um, and so, but I want to say that Coleman Domingo also did that thing as well. So he definitely is coming close to what Danny Glover did, especially when you add the dancing and the singing and all of that. He did a great, great job. I want to say another person that really stuck out, that really did a phenomenal job. I want to say with the singing, the dancing, and the acting was Corey Hawkins as Harpo. He did I was like, okay, heard his vocals and honey, I mean, he was singing. And his dancing, I mean, yeah, he did that thing. He did that thing. You've seen some modern dance in there as well as some other moves, but he did a phenomenal job. I want to say like a triple threat. Yeah, that would be him. Like some of them was okay with the dancing. Like my girl Tamala, you can tell that she can't really dance all like that, like that. You know what I mean? But she did, of course, vocally. That girl could sing, but you can tell that she can't really dance like that. Even Fantasia can't really dance like that. I mean, she did, she did her thing, but Corey, you can tell he can dance. Okay, he did his thing, like like Broadway dance, like yeah. He did his thing. So he and Danielle really did a phenomenal job. Her was okay as Squeak. Just some honorable mentions. Her was cool as Squeak. John Batiste was fun to watch. Of course, I love me some David Allen Greer. He ended up being the father of Suge. I love me some David Allen Greer. David Allen Greer can play some preacher. There's some comedians that can do. I'm talking about mimic a preacher, and he's one of them. I think Arsenio Hall is another one, and he does it. He cracks me up. Ain't coming to America, but David Allen Greer can do him a preacher. I'm telling you, I tell you so. I really, really enjoyed him and some of the others. And of course, when Louis Gossett play, he was the Mr. John, he was the Mr. Johnson, the father. I really enjoyed seeing him as well. Wow, he really aged. And then the Miss Millie, you know, even though her part was really low, he started really small, but it was just good seeing her as well. And yeah, so it was a good time. I want to say overall, it was a good time. Like I really did enjoy seeing the music. I mean, seeing them act, seeing them dance, hearing them sing. I enjoyed it, and I strongly recommend if you can go in the theater to check it out. I know there's some people that say it was like a high rental and all this other stuff. Seeing people that do like the music, the I'm sorry, movie reviews. There are some channels that all they do is just movie reviews, but I want to say, if you had to take my advice, would you go in? I say go. Go to the theater. Enjoy it. Enjoy with the community that's there, with the people that are watching. Try to go relatively soon so the numbers can continue to increase. Because one of the things that came out when we talked about the disparities was that we don't support our films like we should support, or we pick and choose. You know what I mean? So if we are concerned about the pay disparities, and if we're concerned about, the gaps and all this other stuff, then when we are playing parts, and if we are directing, and if we are producing, and we are okay, then support, right? Support the film by going to the films, by going to the movies. Support it. Okay. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Go and support. So this is definitely one of those films that you should go and support. Now let's talk a little bit about the trauma. Now there are underlining themes all throughout the movie. Some of it obviously is domestic violence, um, molestation, or pedophilia, whatever, however you want to frame it. But even child trafficking in some ways. Even though they weren't slaves, but the dominance and all of that stuff would be probably in alignment with like child trafficking, because these children were essentially traded off for things, um, for the benefit of others against their will. Rape, obviously, you non-consensual sexual relations with a minor, you have those themes as well. There's other themes that are in here, whether it's like not having a voice, um, just simply being walked over. Let's see what other themes. And then you have redemption. You have some redemption that happened. You have some evolution of the characters. Forgiveness being one that would be a theme. And I think that one is definitely, especially towards the end, working through it. Forgiveness was a huge one. And I think many of the characters had to get to the point where they forgive, um, some parts of even being humbled, because there were like spectrums where you had one character that was at the lower end where she's almost docile, and then you had another character that was too high and thought too much of herself. And they both had to experience what they had to experience to get to the middle, right? Being more assertive. Yeah, you can have your voice be heard, but you don't have to walk over everybody else's, feelings and thoughts and concerns, and so I think both of them end up going to the middle of the spectrum towards the end of the film. And so it's a great film. It's a great piece of work. You will see a lot more imagination going on. So you're going to see parts where like, that don't make sense. Like that don't make sense. It's not supposed to, because they're literally just imagining things. It's in their minds. They're being creative. They're taking a lot of creative licenses. So if you're looking for it to make sense, or it to be like the 1985 where things like was pretty much within that concrete world, that's not that. You're going to see again, a lot of creative licenses being taken in the 2023 film. All right. So, is there anything else? Oh, as far as the trauma, of course, people dealt with it in their own way. You see people dealing with it through, of course, being perpetuating cycles of dysfunction and trauma. You see that. You see being drowned out in alcohol. You don't see any drug use, but you do see alcoholism or people drinking, away their problems through using alcohol. Um, and so you'll definitely see that. And you will see like a generational pattern or pathology also there. You'll definitely see patterns of that too. You'll see patterns and cycles. And then you also see patterns and cycles be broken. You will see that as well. But I will say for those that will be triggered by what you see, or maybe you're going to avoid this film because it's going to remind you too much of what you've experienced growing up or you experienced in your present or, what have you. I want to say what they did not recommend, which I didn't see much of, because it was a time period piece as well. During the early 1900s, obviously, Black folks just didn't go to counseling. I think a part of our counseling was religion and faith. It was singing. Again, we use other things to try to lift our spirits. And I think that's another part of why the musical works is because Black folks are musical people. And we do use music it's a part of our culture. It's a part of who we are. If we're sad, we'll listen to music. If we're glad, we'll listen to music. If we're just regular every day, we like sounds and tempos and beats. So you'll see that all throughout as well. But what I would like to recommend for those that may be triggered during this, watching the film, or just even watching advertisement or different parts of the film that are going to be in ads and or in different segments and pieces that are shared all throughout social media. I would say get counseling. I would say seek out therapy because that's one thing that they didn't offer during that time. And that's one thing that just wasn't the norm. So we want to normalize that we don't have to be as they were, you know what I mean? And perpetuate these cycles and push down, these experiences. We can deal with these things by talking them through and by going to someone that is a specialist in the area of trauma or getting some coaching to help us along the way. So that's what I would recommend, and that's what I would offer, because I do see people be stopped and blocked or be just stuck in a pattern, even to this day. And I'm just here to say, hey, I want to be of help. I want to be of service to you. So I offer, as well as many other coaches and as well as therapists and counselors, do offer services that can help support people, helping them to manage these things, helping them to confront these things and to deal with these things and to heal from these experiences, the trauma. And so I want to offer my services as well as just say, hey, if I'm not a good fit, that I'm sure you can search through your network, medically speaking, and find a good mental health provider, because I think that that's important. Because I think if nothing else you can get out of this film, you can get that you can overcome it and the cycle can be broken. But you do have to do your part. And just like in the film, the main part that was done by Celie was finding her voice. It wasn't until she really came to herself and found her voice that she was able to get out of her situation. You have the boldness and the courage to come out of her situation. But she had someone to help her. And that's why I say having that counsel, even though she wasn't technically a counselor, but she was someone that supported her in the way that she could support her and help her work through some stuff, even if it wasn't intentional. You know what I mean? It was just simply just done because that's just who, and I'm speaking of Suge, that's just who she was. You know what I mean? She poured into her, And that was just a natural thing. But what I'm saying is that you can be intentional about connecting with someone who is gifted in that area to pour into you, to help you also to get out of your shell, or to help you to deal with some of the trauma that life often brings. And that pretty much concludes the broadcast. I just wanted to give you my reaction of the color purple, the 2023 version, and also to just pay homage to the 1985 version, and to say you should see both. And if you can, read the book. And I don't know if it's currently on Broadway, but go check out the show. I didn't have the opportunity to see it on Broadway, but I did see some clips of that. I think it was Cynthia when she played Celie, and when she sang the song "I'm Still Here" or "I'm Here." Oh my gosh, that song is just, it's just amazing. And so many people have played Celie, but I do feel like Fantasia does a great job at it as well. All right, so thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe and to like the video and all of that jazz. And I will be coming back soon because I got to catch up with my videos. I'll be coming back again talking about something very serious that pertains to therapy and counseling. Unfortunately, we got to deal with the trauma in our community, y'all. So I'm going to be coming back again with another video talking about some stuff that needs to be discussed. And that's it. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And this is Dr. Kesha signing off. And God bless you and stay well. And I'll see you next time. Bye.